Hey there, it's Mike with On Point Preparedness. This video is going to be a fun one for me because we're going to cover a variety of topics. We're going to look at the Freemasonic principle of duality, controlled opposition, and how the combination of those two may support a theory of mine that you and me may be supporting the New World Order and don't even know about it. Now, to clarify that last statement, it is just a theory. There is no way to prove it. But I will show you some articles and evidence as to why I think and feel that way. To start this discussion, I'd like to bring us back to this symbol that I had shared with you 2 videos ago and is called Ordo ab Chao, or Order out of Chaos, where you literally have a double-headed phoenix rising out of the ashes or rising out of chaos. Now, in that video, I gave you a synopsis as to the symbolism behind this, and I am going to cover it again, just with a little bit more intensity on this duality and controlled opposition aspect. So, what is duality in the Freemasonic world? Well, this article has one sentence which sums it up best, and you can see that here. Remember the law of duality. One is the objective, exoteric or outer appearance or agenda. The other is the hidden, esoteric or inner obscure meanings. Esoteric philosophy obscures inner truth, in part by necessity and in part by deliberate purpose. So how does that relate here, the concept of duality? And how does it also relate to controlled opposition? Because duality and controlled opposition are almost one in the same. I'm going to go back to this Republican and Democrat analogy, but really you can use any competing factions for these two heads. So, with regards to duality, what is the external appearance? Well, you have two heads opposing each other and they're fighting. So, Republicans and Democrats. Now, the inner appearance, or the esoteric agenda, is that really, even though these heads are opposed and they're fighting, they know that they can't kill one another because they support the same body, the same stomach. And so the inner agenda is the same between the two. It's to feed itself. And so this head is a controlled opposition to this head, and vice versa. And what's controlling them is the inner or esoteric agenda, being to keep itself alive. Well, how does that all relate to this whole theory of mine that you and me may be supporting the New World Order without even knowing about it? Let's look into it just a little bit here. I'd like to start with this video clip from the TV series Heroes Reborn, Dark Matters Chapter 1. I'm going to cover this video in another video about some other meanings in it because this thing is just full of all sorts of goodies for me to do videos on. But I want you guys to think about the concept of duality, and I want you to think about controlled opposition. Now, I'm going to play you 2 small segments of this and add some commentary afterwards.
This is Heroes Truther. I'm here to expose the lies and distortions, to speak for the silenced voices. There's a war going on. It's being waged right outside your door. The casualties are our neighbors, friends, and family. We stand on the front lines, yet do nothing to defend them. I remember a hope we once shared, that our species was capable of something truly extraordinary.
So in this first part of the clip, this figure is like a truther. He's like me. He's like your favorite bloggers. He's telling you the real story, what's really going on. And that all sounds awesome, except for the fact that he has a satanic symbol all the way around himself. And it's just comical, guys. You know, at this point when they just put it out like this, you know, they're really making a mockery out of the conspiracy theorists at this point. But still, think about it. He is a truther. He's representing a group of people that is opposed to government, opposed to basically the taking away of all our religious and constitutional liberties, but he has a satanic symbol behind him. Well, let's look again at the second part of this clip, because it even becomes a little bit clearer.
What is it?
How can humanity, capable of such miracles and wonders, be full of such hatred?
Protests erupted.
Didn't take long for us to blame them. We fear-mongered and labeled. There was no trial, no judge or jury, but a sentence was passed down just the same. Let fear overcome common sense, pass legislation that violates privacy and dignity. We're forcing them into hiding,
Straight ahead.
to the shadows, where Evos will become marginalized.
So even more clear. He's talking about how these Evos, or these evolved humans, are marginalized, where they're taking biometric or facial identification photos of them. They're taking handprints of them. They're taking, retinal scans of them, and DNA swab samples of their mouth. And he's really promoting, if I can find it right here, he's promoting the riots. And he's promoting the gathering of people to really go against this tyranny. And so he is a Illuminati truther, if you want. A controlled opposition. So now this is just a fictional TV series. And I'm not saying that you should think that me and all your favorite bloggers are controlled oppositions, even though there are some out there that say I'm a government shill. But let's look at some things going on around the world, and let's see if being a truther or being someone that wants to rebel against the government may actually facilitate the New World Order. To start, the migrant crisis. Here is an article from RT, says the crisis is putting Germany towards anarchy and civil war. Next article. Mass immigration is on the verge of destroying Europe. Next and best article, video from the Hungarian Prime Minister calls the migrant influx a treasonous conspiracy to marginalize nation states. Let's be clear about this migrant crisis. This thing did not happen organically. The refugees are not just from Syria. They're from Iraq, they're from Afghanistan, they're from Syria, they're from all over the Middle East. And although there has been war raging in that area for a decade, they all just decided to organically, within about a week or so, and by word of mouth say, hey, I think we should get out of here. Let us all, 100 and some thousand or million of us, let's just head up through Europe. And all the mainstream media just covered it, and it was this huge wave of refugees. No. That sort of thing does not happen organically that quickly. And just as the Hungarian Prime Minister said, this is a treasonous conspiracy. This thing was by design. Well, if it's by design, why would the elite, and we typically think of the elite as Western figures, primarily residing in the US or Europe, or like the UK, why would they want to destroy these countries? And it's even more apparent if you look at occult symbolism. This 2015 Economist cover, which is just laden with all sorts of symbolism, they have the Pied Piper. And although we cannot conclude that the Pied Piper is in relation to the refugee crisis, it is pretty similar that the Pied Piper used his magical flute to lure children away from cities to never be seen again, and we do have some type of Pied Piper figure in the background, shadow government, leading these refugees to these areas throughout Europe and the United States. But why? Why would they want to destroy Western Europe? Why would they want to destroy the US? Because you would think the New World Order doesn't want to be destroyed. They don't want their governments destroyed. They want to keep them intact so that there can be a controlling government in the UN 2030 agenda. So these couple articles here, I showed you that Europe is just in a state of dismay. While the Middle East, I wish I could find a better article for this, but there's been civil wars and wars there forever, but most notably in the last decade, you've had Muammar Gaddafi and the civil war there in Lebanon. You've had Yemen in turmoil, the Egyptian civil war and military coup, the Syrian civil war. We bombed the hell out of Afghanistan and Iraq, and those countries are just in dismay. So we destroyed the Middle East. There is some shadow government or some elites that are intending on destroying Europe. But what about the US? Here's a good article. It's been 150 years since the US was this politically polarized. Some say we haven't been this polarized since the Civil War. And some of these charts I've actually referred to before in my written articles. Doesn't really matter if you're talking about Republican versus Democrat, black versus white, cop versus citizen, Muslim versus everyone else, man versus woman, gay versus straight. Almost every single issue you could possibly think about in America, people are highly divided. And it's not by accident. It is by design. If you look at the words of Obama and this administration and past administrations, where they're really pitting each other against one another. Further, this whole gun control thing happening in the U.S. The Daily Beast said Obama and Hillary are toying with civil war over gun confiscation. And the most important part of this article says here, they say it's impossible. So here, the Daily Beast put it this way. The prospect of confiscation, as much as it might sound theoretically to reduce drastically or even eliminate gun crime altogether, is simply impossible in the United States. It is impossible. You know why? Because our culture centered around the Second Amendment cannot be dismantled without bloodshed. Even if they pass legislation for confiscation in the form of a buyback program or physical confiscation, you're going to have bloodshed. Everyone knows this. So why, time and time again, do we have these false flag attacks or even real attacks where they basically promote the gun control agenda? Why do they keep on doing this if we know, and they know, that it's virtually impossible to confiscate the guns? Well, we know that division is on the rise, as I just showed you here. And we know that Obama is the best gun salesman in the history of all presidents. And so we have more guns in the hands of American citizens than probably ever before. Remember this video? The Purge, where all crime is legal and basically citizens turned against citizens. Here's my crazy theory, people. We have a calculated conspiracy and treason, which is pushing migrants all throughout Europe to destroy the governments and to destroy the economies and the citizens. The same things happening in the Middle East. The same things happening in the U.S. And even more so in the U.S., we have all these gun fears that are making people buy up tons of guns and ammo. So could it be that they're wanting us to get more guns and ammo? Because in the event of some catastrophic cataclysm, we would basically go after ourselves? And what if the truthers, the anarchists, the revolutionaries, the people that are against government and want to overthrow them, what if you do see many governments get toppled? And many already have, as we've seen in the Middle East. What if many governments get toppled? How does that possibly support the New World Order agenda? Remember, controlled opposition. All right? And going back to that heroes clip that I showed you. What if they want us to topple governments? That sounds completely strange, but it doesn't sound so strange if you apply it to some verses here in Revelation, where it talks about how there are 10 kings who have not received a kingdom as of yet, but will receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So we know something bad, something cataclysmic is going to happen. Many of us feel that the Great Tribulation is at hand. And there will be 10 kings which have had no kingdom as of yet, and they'll be given the power of kings. Is it possible through this ordo ab chaos, or order out of chaos? The chaos is world governments toppling, either through war, famine, economic reasons, in conjunction with rebellions of people in all the different countries. And so you have famine, you have economic collapse, you have anarchists and rebellion and governments that are toppled. And then this Antichrist figure comes out of the chaos. 10 kings which have had no kingdom yet are established. And the fact that we helped topple the governments basically creates a vacuum for a new one. A little bit out there, but that last sentence really strikes a bell. What if all the people, if there is massive rebellion, and there definitely is, take a look at Sweden. I don't have the article pulled up yet, but there's Swedish citizens torching refugee camps. They're almost in anarchy and civil war as well. What if this was all by design to topple governments in order to make the appearance of a creation of a vacuum of power so that it can be filled? That it can be filled by these new kings which have had no kingdom yet, and a vacuum that can be filled by the Antichrist. Again, just a theory. I'm not suggesting that you stop what you're doing if you are communicating to people the truth about our government, the truth about Christ and the Revelation timeline actually manifesting. And I don't know exactly how deep this theory goes. I'm not suggesting that this is the elite's plan for every single government, but I do know it has a large component for it. Again, you just wouldn't see all these different things happening. The division in America that was by design, the refugee crisis that is by design, the toppling of Middle Eastern governments that is by design. You wouldn't have all this chaos by design, and you wouldn't have things like this which are sort of upholding truthers as a controlled opposition unless you had a purpose for them. A purpose to rebel against government, create the vacuum for the new world order. Anywho, appreciate your thoughts. Again, I'm going to do another video on this Heroes Reborn, and it's going to be about the mark of the beast and what this video may be telling us. So until next time, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness.